Hey everybody, this is So Many Sequels. I'm Josh.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm David.
Welcome to the show, everybody.
Woo!
How's
Oh my
everybody
gosh.
feeling?
A
It's
little
Thanksgiving
rundown, I
week.
gotta say.
It is Thanksgiving week.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I'm ready for food.
unfortunately.
I want to talk about the sad news that we got today. And Jason David Frank is no longer with us. It made me
Oh,
sad. You know,
Yeah,
we're going to start heavy. We're going to get weird later. May as well start heavy.
yeah, that was sad to learn about. Jason David Frank, famous, of Power Rangers fame, passed away. Hey, there's a Green Ranger. You got the White Ranger? There we go.
Of course I do.
I remember being a young kid and the Billy sneaking into the command center and seeing them create the White Power Ranger, and I was just like, that was the height of society as far as like a 7-year-old is concerned. What is happening in there? It's probably like the first real twist for me, like in my memory of who's it gonna be? Oh my gosh! And then when it was Tommy, it was like genius, genius.
I feel like Jason David Frank as Tommy, for me as a young boy in the 90s, was like the first, oh, you're like a superstar celebrity in my head, you know? Oh, you're the green Power Ranger or the white or whatever color he was as he turned to different Power Rangers. But he was like the only one from the show that I felt went beyond the show, even just a little bit, into stardom. And that's how I remember him. It's very sad.
No, I have a big Power Rangers fandom in my life. I have an entire shelf with all of the pops, both in uniform and out of uniform. I've got the villains. I need to get Zordon and Alpha. I don't have, but otherwise I have the whole Mighty Morphin Power Rangers collection. Growing up, I had the Megazords and all of the toys and everything there. I also remember specifically, I had an exercise video, VHS of Jason David Frank's Power Rangers, whatever routine anyway. And we were doing like mountain climbers at the time. And I would pop that sucker in the VHS on the TV and, try to get in Power Ranger shape.
What happened?
I don't know. I didn't, they only released one video.
Oh, there you go. You got it. You have to rewind to do it over.
That's true. It's true. Be kind, rewind. But I also, whenever we were doing some OK Connection stuff in those videos, we did one over the Tulsa Comic Con whenever it came here for the first year. And Jason David Frank was here. And at the time I was working in news and he would be the go-to interview. I mean, he'd give you an interview. He had such a long line too every time. And, he really made the best out of those cons and really made people feel like they were connected. So it's a really sad loss.
It is, and we don't, the details are still kind of coming out, so I won't speculate or anything like that. But his work, and he has seemed to have such a great attitude. I've watched a lot of interviews with him. He seemed like a very cool guy. So yeah, it's a terrible loss.
Yes.
And for his 4 kids too. That's
Yeah. Well, let's move into other.
What a great transition.
I know. Sometimes it's a hard transition.
I want to talk
Sometimes you just
about.
gotta get out of it.
You said it was Thanksgiving. I got to tell you guys, I'm over Thanksgiving
Already.
as a feast. Because here's the thing: it's the same thing every year. Thanksgiving is the same thing every year, and I would love to mix it up. I want Thanksgiving steak, with green beans and potatoes and stuff. I'm sick of turkey, ham, and cranberry sauce.
How
I'm done
do
with
you cook
this.
your turkey?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm sick of turkey every year. And you know what? We do it again at Christmas. It's the same daggum meal. I would
I
love
disagree. I don't
Thanksgiving
do
tacos
Christmas.
one
I
year.
don't do. We have always done. Well, now we do pizza for Christmas Eve, but we don't necessarily have a traditional. We have a traditional breakfast morning, which is biscuits and chocolate gravy.
I love it. Mix it up. That's what I say. I don't know why we have to be so restricted by this tradition of turkey and ham and scallop potatoes.
Is it just because you're
and
picking?
cranberries? No, it really, honestly, I used to love it as a kid. It was great. But you know what? I'm at 32 years old now, and I'm sick of it. I'm just done. Why are we doing it again? How about this year? Thanksgiving pasta. There you go. You get a bunch of pastas, lasagnas, really do it different. But every year it's just the same thing. I gotta eat these gross cranberries, and I gotta eat these green bean casseroles and stuff like that. I'm done with it.
It's fair. I have a friend whose family does Thanksgiving barbecue because they
What a
don't,
family.
right? They don't like the typical meal, just like you said.
And
I
And you
guess it
know
depends
what?
on your family unit. Some
And
might be willing to do
and
that.
then you know what? It's a smart idea if you wanna save money, because they hike those turkey prices up right before Thanksgiving. You
They
know
do.
that all that stuff is just going up, and everybody's grabbing it, but you know what no one's grabbing? Okay? No one's grabbing the sushi. No one's grabbing the salmon. Thanksgiving salmon? I bet they ate salmon at the first Thanksgiving.
You think? Is
I
that an
bet.
Atlantic fish? I don't know.
I don't have any idea. Who
This
knows?
is what we do in my family. We deep fry our turkey, which is the way to go if you're going to do a turkey. If you have someone who is responsible and not drinking, then I highly suggest getting a turkey fryer because it is the best way to eat a turkey. And then for Christmas in the
Yeah.
past, like I said, we normally do pizza, but in the past we used to do brisket.
Love the idea. Love it. Anything to mix it up, you know? And yeah, so that's my Thanksgiving spiel.
Ah,
If you would like to join me in my quest to rebrand Thanksgiving to an any food thing, you can find me at my TikTok account, which we'll
perfect.
have at the end of the show. Keep
Maybe you
watching.
need to maybe you need a TikTok rant about this and see what the people say.
On my petition. Well, I'm doing it right now. I'm going to clip this later.
On the subject of holidays, fellas, I have released the Kraken. I have opened the box and I have watched a Christmas thing.
Oh, there you go.
Christmas
Officially
movies have
Christmas.
entered my life. I actually watched this one specifically so that I could talk about it at the beginning of the show today. I watched the first episode of The Santa Clauses.
Me too.
Oh, crap.
Too.
I'm glad you did, David, because now I can. You'll understand, but Garrett will enjoy this. I took some
I
notes.
did not watch the second one yet.
I
have
did not
watched it.
either. I only watched the first one, and frankly, I thought it was bad. And let me
Can't
tell you
imagine
why.
it's good.
Let me tell you why.
So many reasons you could go with.
I know, but I have just a handful I wrote down. One was the musical moment of girls just want to have fun turned into toys and candy and fun.
Elves just want to make toys and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember if it was the Santa Claus 2 or 3, but the one where they build like the robot Santa Claus that looks like a toy.
Mhm.
Tim Allen really looks plastic now. The prosthetics are really bad. He looks like a caricature of what the Santa Claus used to be.
Does he
I
look
know.
like the version of himself in the Santa Claus 2, where he is made of plastic and is
Yes,
kind of
yes.
That's what I'm
nasty?
saying.
More or
Yes.
less.
He looks
More
more
or
like
less.
that than he looks like Tim Allen.
I thought that was the third one, but okay.
There was a terrible joke I wrote down that has no,
Oh,
it makes no sense.
yeah.
But
No. it
right
doesn't
before
really-
he goes into a montage about where he's trying to get fat, he goes, instead of Eye of the Tiger, it's Eye of the Kringle.
Yes. Yes.
That's the punchline. It makes no sense.
Right.
And then they play Eye of the Tiger.
Kringle.
And then my last bits is there's been a moment from this episode that's gone somewhat viral where
Hmm.
Santa makes a comment about how no one's allowed to say Merry Christmas anymore. It's
Well,
problematic.
no. Merry Christmas to all.
Merry Christmas to all
Merry
is
Christmas
problematic.
To all. Yeah.
And that is not hardly the most egregious offense this show makes in terms of Tim Allen forcing politics into his acting.
A little
Okay.
bit of Tim Allen into it. Yeah.
He didn't used to do this, and it saddens me that he does. The worst part was that there's a naughty and nice council that decides which kids are naughty and nice. And there is a very politically correct elf who lectures Santa on how we can't call it the naughty list anymore. It's the misunderstood list.
There's the list. Yes. Yes.
It's like,
Yeah.
that is so much stupider than the line that's
Honestly.
about.
It is. It is.
God, lame.
It is
So
like
bad.
it is. If I asked an AI to write a conservative Santa Claus movie because of all of the, and I feel like I haven't continued on to episode 2. I have not. The rest of the series, I guess it comes out episodically. It's just probably
Merry
gonna double down
Christmas
on
to
that
all.
stuff.
One gift until the day.
If we're lucky, it'll not double down on that stuff, but I feel like it will. And it is very strange that I guess whoever is in charge must have given Tim Allen a lot of creative input because it
Yeah,
does
so I
feel
look-
like it does feel so antithetical to specifically the Santa Claus from 1995.
It
96?
couldn't be
I
more
can't remember
different. It
exactly.
feels like a
Right.
different Santa.
It feels, yeah. I mean, honestly,
totally
in terms of these belated Disney Plus reboots, I do think this one definitely misses on the nostalgia entirely. Like, I love the first Santa Claus, and it's because it plays
Yeah.
to 1995 Tim Allen strengths, right? and you totally buy it, and by the end of the movie, you actually really like Tim Allen as Santa Claus. It feels like weirdly perfect casting by the end of the movie. You're like, he has it. He has this warmth about him. The warmth is gone. It is bitter old Santa Claus now, and it there were moments where I wanted to keep going. I wanted to like it. I was like, maybe I can just look. I knew the joke was coming. I already
There
saw
were
it.
moments, yes.
I already saw it. And, but it just feels, oh no, it's just not
No, it
working.
doesn't hit. So
The magic is not there.
the central premise, which is that more and more kids are starting to not believe in Santa, which is causing him to lose his powers. So he has to bring the belief in Santa back. And I like that a lot, except for they lean into the whole, well, no one's allowed to say Merry Christmas.
Yeah, they're leaning into
And
one of the
that kid's
core
not naughty, he
reasons.
has ADHD.
Yeah,
Weird.
one of the core reasons that people don't believe in Santa Claus is because, they haven't said this directly. They have not said it directly yet. But essentially, the insinuation is one of the core reasons that people aren't believing in Santa Claus is because as a society, we're becoming more woke or over enlightened or non traditional, too progressive. It's like, oh, you don't have to celebrate Christmas if you don't want to, which that nobody does that. I don't think. I think there's a lot of people still celebrating Christmas, and there's still a lot of kids that believe in Santa Claus. I think, as it was poorly done, but I do Cal Penn looking at a spreadsheet of his delivery competitors and asking, who is this 17%? And they're like, we don't know. It's a very the idea of digging around the lore of Santa Claus and figuring out how do these presents just show up and nobody knows? Is there a magic charm that makes the parents think, oh yeah, we bought that?
Yeah.
That's interesting, but
How is the true star of the show David Krumholtz?
Don't know yet.
Hadn't shown up yet.
Okay, well then I will
All right, we might
wait on pins and needles for my boyfriend.
We may be dragging this on too long, but not loving it. I'm willing to try to watch the second episode to see if it doesn't do.
Yeah,
But
honestly, I kind of want to watch it until I at least get to see David Krumholtz. That's kind of all I'm here for. And then if it's still bad, then I might be out.
I'm waiting for Judge Reinhold.
Judge Reinhold and his weenie whistle.
I do not think that that Charlie and the parents are coming back, but man,
you can listen.
What
to
a great movie though, for Santa Claus.
You can listen to our review of the Santa Claus at so many sequels.
The movie.
You scroll back, you'll find it in one of our So Many Santas years. I think it was 2 years ago, maybe. Anyway, let's move on to our main topic of the day. How about that?
Let's do it.
We are watching and reviewing the Weird Al story on the show today. Bit of a niche movie, only available on the Roku Channel. If you could figure out how to watch it there, you can do it for free. You just have to be able to figure it out.
Boys, before we get too deep into this, I would like to just refresh everyone's memories. If we can see, for the viewing audience, there's a picture of David, myself, and Josh, and Weird Al Yankovic.
And a fun fact about that photo, I'd already been fired that week, but I came back. Now, Josh got to interview Weird Al, I believe.
There's the social media clip. Yes, yeah. So in 2013, Weird Al was celebrating the anniversary of UHF, which was filmed here in Tulsa. So he came to town. We were all working at a radio station at the time. He was kind enough to, 2.5 of us were working at a radio station at the time, and was kind enough to come in and allow us to talk with him. So I got to interview him on the radio for a little bit. It was very fun. I wish I could remember it. It was a blur. If I can find it, maybe I'll put it out in the feed for fun.
My favorite part of that interview is you often called him Weird because that's the first name at that point in time, and you're interviewing him, and you were.
I do remember my first question was if I should call him Weird or Al. Yeah. And he said we were not on a first adjective basis yet.
Right. Which is the funny that you struggled with. I remember you struggling with it a little bit because I think you were still just starstruck.
I'm starstruck, first of all.
In the conversation.
Yeah, it was fun. I have a lot of good memories of that.
We actually, one of the reasons he was there was we dedicated a closet to Weird Al at the university. So that's why.
We'll have to
I'll dig up those photos.
Yeah, we'll post those photos on our social media if we can dig them up, and I'll see if I can
put them in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll do that because it was very fun. And I just want to say that since that interview with me, Weird Al won a Grammy and has now made a movie. So I like to think I'm somewhat responsible for his career resurgence.
That is the reason not to track that.
It's only been an upward trajectory.
His first Grammy came after I don't remember what the name of that album was, but
Was it
Mandatory Fun came out after that interview, and he won a Grammy, and the rest is history. You're welcome, Alfred. But so we're talking about the Weird Al story today, all that to say. There's probably gonna be spoilers in this episode, so if you care about that, be mindful of it going forward, because there's just no way to talk about this without talking about some of the hilarious, takes and
Definitely.
directions that this goes in, because like you might expect, not everything as it seems with anything Weird Al makes. Much like he might take a song that you love and turn it into something funny, he has taken a genre of film that a lot of people love and turned it into something funny. This is just a big parody of music biopics. And
Yes.
the more of those you've seen and the more you enjoy, I think, the more you'll like this, because some of the references are pretty niche, but it's still fantastic.
Sure.
David, I think you watched it most recently of the three of us.
I did. I literally just got off of watching it.
What did you think then? You have the freshest thoughts. What'd you think of
Um,
the story?
it was I had to keep remembering that the movie was not going to maintain any sense of connective logic because I'm watching it and it's very funny. I'm like, okay, right away, okay, yeah, his parents hate his weird, his fun music and stuff like that. But then he goes to a party with his friends. Come to the party, and he sneaks out, and there were these people dancing, wearing lederhosen and stuff, and I was like, "Huh, that's weird." And then he walks, and then they go, "You didn't tell me this was a polka party. My parents are gonna lose it, right?" And I was like, "Right, right, right," because his parents
That's
are not gonna freak out about it's exclusively polka, and I had to keep. And so from roughly after that, I got in the mindset, but early on, it does. So at the beginning, it does feel like a movie, and it keeps feeling and then it just slowly sort of goes off the rails to, like, just completely not even like it's not after a while, it's not even a music parody or a musical biopic anymore. It's just weird, right? Fun goofiness where it's completely divorced from reality, and early on, it feels like there's like a loose connection, obvious lies are being told, but it's loosely feels like a real thing. And then it's just complete insanity. So yeah, I was entertained. I did think that often with parodies or spoof movies, there can be, I think, an issue with if they start doing a bit and the bit's not quite working for you, you just kind of have to endure the bit. And so there were a few bits that weren't working for me, and I was like, oh man, how long are we gonna do this for now? And there was I think one of the funniest things because of how they handle it, how Daniel Radcliffe performs it, is the fabrication, the bit that, Weird Al wrote "Eat It" first, and then Michael Jackson parodied him with "Beat It." He normal out him, and that to me was because of Daniel reaction, Daniel's just slamming the phone, just so angry. That to me was quite funny, and I would have loved to see the movie then continue to a beef between with Weird Al and Michael Jackson, but maybe that was in bad they thought that'd be in bad taste. But
Understand.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's
David,
first thoughts.
I agree. I think the movie was great as a parody the first half, and then the second half, I kind of lost some steam. It went in a few crazy directions that I was like, you didn't necessarily need that aspect. I didn't love the Pablo Escobar elements. I didn't care for that. I almost think that this movie would have been great as a parody of a superhero movie because my favorite moments were whenever he just like Divine discovered his parody, like the finding of My Bologna and the breakdown of Another One Rides the Bus. Like those two moments, especially for me, were like his superpower is to divine parody song lyrics to these things, and he becomes this outcast and uses his superpower for good eventually. But some of the musical elements were a little too far. I also didn't love the original elements. I didn't care for him being like, I'm going to be an original songwriter and then just parodying. I didn't love that dynamic, but Daniel Radcliffe's performance was perfect. He
Mhm.
really was having fun.
Yeah.
For me, the one that does that is whenever he's having his meltdown and the audience starts to hate him because he comes out and boos him and then he wins him over again and he's just losing his mind. I think that really he's just having fun doing that and all of it and it shows through. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah, absolutely off the rails. Please don't think this is a real biopic of Weird Al.
Yeah, Daniel Radcliffe has got to have one of my favorite acting careers of any young adult acting today. He's I don't know. He's a weird man, and I respect that. It makes me think. Look, I've been a big Harry Potter fan since I was like 8. Basically, my whole life, I've been convinced I could be friends with Daniel Radcliffe, and I feel more certain of that now than ever. That like we could get along. He's very weird, so I love
Swiss
that.
Army Man. I mean, like, I think you and I are the only two people who freaking love that movie.
Look, yes, because even when he's in a movie that I don't like, he is something to watch for sure. Um, so I was on board as soon as I saw that he was in this.
Right.
As if a Weird Al movie would lose me, but you get Daniel Radcliffe on board and suddenly it goes to the next level. I would agree that the movie loses steam a bit once it kind of shifts into this weird drug lord kidnapping storyline. That feels like a little too much, but that's okay. It doesn't ruin it. It doesn't ruin the movie. It just kind of takes a little bit to come back around. I loved how they made him go through the ups and downs of a rising singer that you see in these movies, how he has a father who is abusive and wants nothing to do with music. How dare you have an accordion in this house is just very funny. And that his mom has been secretly helping him the whole time. I did kind of like the concept of Eat It being an original Al song that Michael Jackson then, because I just like the turn that it turned it on its head a little bit and that he got to experience what the perception is that he has done to other artists. Because, there's some artists who have historically not wanted to do their songs, and he has always asked and had good relationships with people who do. So it was funny to see him put in the position of someone who stole his song. I like that. There's a lot of great cameos that I wanted to discuss. Some are bigger cameos than others. I mean, you've got Rainn Wilson as Dr. Demento.
That would be.
Can we call him by his real name, Rainfall, Heatwave, Extreme, Winter Wilson, please?
I will not, because that is
Timely.
too stupid.
Timely.
I have the list here. Hang on. There's a great scene where he's at Dr. Demento's party, and there's a whole bunch of cameos. Yes.
Whole
Okay. We've got my favorite, Conan O'Brien as Andy Warhol, was fantastic.
Hilarious. Perfect use of Conan O'Brien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jorma Taccone from The Lonely Island was Pee Wee Herman.
Yes.
Akiva Schaffer, also from The Lonely Island, was Alice Cooper. Dimitri Martin played Tiny Tim. Paul F. Tompkins was Gallagher, also recently.
Rest in peace.
And then Emo Phillips was Salvador Dali.
And then also
Some
just in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the background you see like Elvira, you see I think Frank Zappa,
You got Jack Black as Wolfman Jack.
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, and the Roger Deakins, the bass player from Queen, actually just happens to be there, played by David Dalmatian, which was I found that to be very funny, just because I think he had his own like spin-off album from Queen that was sort of like a joke comedy album. I could be wrong. It may have been very serious. But I remember researching that after watching Bohemian Rhapsody, I was like, oh, he actually did have his own little thing. Okay. That's fun.
Interesting.
The only thing that would have made that scene better is if Conan O'Brien was playing everybody and it was just consistent every time it was Conan O'Brien as Pee Wee Herman as whoever.
I thought they did a really good job of casting as far as who's playing what, and I thought they all did a really good job of playing their parts. They may not look exactly like them, but you don't have to in a parody as long as you play your part, and they all really did sell who they were, and I thought they did a great job of picking people. Paul F. Tompkins in the comedy circles like that, a lot of people probably see him and go, I know that guy, but to see him in that role is just wonderful because
he's funny.
He just looks like Gallagher always. to have him play Gallagher just makes too much sense.
Yes, and we get a lot of other big star cameos. We have Evan Rachel Wood as Madonna for most of the movie as well, in a hit and miss, I think, bit with the Madonna stuff. Nothing against Evan Rachel Wood; she does a fine job. But at times I was like, "Oh, this is funny," but then she stayed in the movie, and I was like,
once Madonna entered the fray, that's kind of where the movie I felt like kind of went a little too all over the place and lost some of the essence that was really fun. There was elements of the Madonna parts that I liked, but the whole drug lord aspect.
I want to drop in here too that Al's dad, my wife told me this, is played by Cotton Hill.
Nice.
How about that?
It's nice to put a face to the name.
The guy who's the voice of Cotton Hill was his dad, which I thought was pretty.
Yeah.
I thought that was a fun bit, and he was being so mean, but it was also so comical. And his mom goes, "We just want you to not be yourself or do the things you love."
Anytime someone beats up Thomas Lennon is great, and I mean that as a fan of Thomas Lennon. He's just funny and he sells it well.
I knew I was going to love the movie. Well, I knew I was going to really like the movie when Thomas Lennon showed up.
Always.
I've never disliked Thomas Lennon in anything.
Yes, and as a random accordion salesman, perfection. Just
Which that part of the story is true. I did some research on what was true, what like if there was any element that was based in realities in this. And the closest thing that I could find is that Weird Al did get interested in the accordion when a door-to-door salesman came and visited the family about it. But outside of that, everything else was basically just taken to the extreme.
Yes. I'm trying to think of another aspect. Talk about it. Did you guys, the credits were pretty great. They had this very typical photo montage of Weird Al growing up that slowly but surely becomes pretty much not real footage or video
yeah.
photos.
Yeah.
And there was a point where I was like, wait a minute, where did these stop being real? Because there was a very realistic photo of him sitting next to John Bon Jovi. And I was like, okay, all right. And then there was another one and there was a new photo. I was like, well, that doesn't look real. And then I went,
Yep.
was the John Bon Jovi one real? It's just so hard to now retroactively, it's hard to tell which ones were real, which ones weren't.
Yeah.
Because there was a photo with the real Dr. Demento, who's a real person who I figured was fake for most of this movie.
Yeah, a lot of those people were real, and they have in this article I found they had some side by side, pictures of who they picked to play who, and they do again a good job of parodying those individuals. Did you see the final end credit where is he dead? We never know. Could we get a Weird Al parody too?
Maybe. Back and weirder than ever.
Weird
Did you
Al
not see
because
that, Josh?
Roku didn't work for me very well.
Oh, did it not?
He kept sputtering on me with the connection for whatever reason, and had a lot to say. I had to sit through a lot of ads, which was frustrating. I haven't signed up for the full account, but yeah, I was skipping the credits. Were very fun because he sings a song narrating the credits, but I missed it. The movie does end in a very crazy way where it just says that Weird Al was assassinated in 1985, which maybe that's how Weird Al would love his story to have ended. You never know.
If you go past the photos, did you guys go past the photos at all?
Yeah,
With the grave scene, did you see
yeah.
that?
No, I didn't see that.
Okay. Well, so
I don't
at
know why
the
how did I miss that?
okay, at the end, there's a post-credit scene, so stay around. I don't know if I want to spoil it or not, but I will, unless you tell me not to. But
No, go ahead.
Madonna comes and visits the grave and puts some flowers on the grave, and then the hand comes out and grabs Madonna, and she screams.
All right.
So you never
Um,
know what's gonna happen. Zombie Weird Al, I'm here for that.
does anybody have any other thoughts from the movie, like specifically from the movie, real quick?
No, it's fun. You should watch it.
Yeah, it's very fun. I don't think I
Perfect, because now is the time I want to transition to two other topics.
Okay.
I think the movie itself is very good. The distribution, I think, is a huge disservice to it. I think
Oh,
this
sure.
being Roku exclusive. Like at first, it was like, okay, that's funny. But honestly, it's a huge disservice because this movie, I think, would do pretty well, or at least do. I think there'd be a lot of interest. That Weird Al has a lot of fans, of multiple ages. Like every year, there's a new 13-year-old kid that just discovered Weird Al and thinks that nobody's ever heard of him. You know,
Yeah.
just every year,
Nice.
there's a new 19-year-old kid who's found the Beatles for the first time. There's always a kid who has just discovered Weird Al and makes it his whole personality for a year.
It's a credit to his success in a way because I think that he is such an iconic figure, but he is also still niche enough that people do discover him. And it's, whoa, I've never heard of this guy before. What do you mean he's been around forever? Because I saw in some of my research beforehand that it actually took Daniel Radcliffe signing on to do this for the Roku Channel to agree to do it at all. So it sounded like, I don't know, maybe they had trouble getting a buyer for this movie. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just thinking, like, even the Roku Channel wouldn't take that without Daniel Radcliffe attached. Seemed
Mhm.
interesting to me because Roku is fairly new to the original content market.
Right.
Most of their original content are Quibi leftovers, if you remember that, RIP Quibi.
Super.
But they're trying to get into original content more, and this movie is probably their highest profile way so far. And so you're right, it ends up being a disservice to the movie. Whether it's a service to Roku, I don't know, because, these companies never tell us how many people actually watch their
Right.
stuff. But you're
It
right.
might drive a huge amount of subscribers that then suddenly dip off. You don't
I
know.
know this is something that I
Mhm.
feel like should have at least been a limited release in theaters for, indie theaters. I can see small theaters doing small screenings of this for a 2-week engagement or something in select cities, something like that versus
Mhm.
fully dumping it on whatever this is.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever Roku.
Indie theaters would go ham with something like this. I mean,
Weird
dress
Al's
up
there.
as Weird Al, bring your accordions, you'd
Mhm.
have the music playing in the thing, and the crazy that it would be is a huge smash at little indie theaters.
Right.
Yeah,
And that's what I'm thinking,
and maybe it'll become that someday.
Because
Maybe
if
it's a Rocky Horror style. Everybody watches the movie and has lines they say back to it. I could see that.
very similar to UHF, his other cult classic, which we should consider reviewing also.
We can review UHF. I'm fine with that.
It is very surprising that Weird Al really hasn't. I mean, he's been in the movie industry a lot. Like, he's done a lot of songs for films. I'm thinking like Spy Hard and things like that. He's been in a lot of television. We hear said the voice of Seth Green briefly in this movie. He did a lot with Robot Chicken. So it is, but I think honestly, Weird Al he could be in all things. Like, he could do music, film, and television very easily because I think he's a talented guy. Maybe he just doesn't have the time to dedicate to those three things. But just watching the movie, I feel like everybody here, a lot of the people here didn't audition. They did it because they love Weird Al. Like Lin-Manuel Miranda, all of those cameos we mentioned earlier, they're here because it's like Weird Al wants me to be in a movie. Absolutely, right? He has a very eclectic fan base.
For the record, that man's got time. Again, they point out very clearly his whole point of fame is taking already completed musical compositions and changing the lyrics.
I love that as the film, one of the film's, subtle things is Weird Al essentially being constantly critical of himself. One of the funnier scenes is Will Forte just running down Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al while his brother, played by Weird Al Yankovic, sits behind him. And after a while, Weird Al says, okay, yeah, you're like, you want to just be like, hey, okay, my feelings are starting to be hurt. All right. Because he's like, you're ugly and you're stupid and you have no talent. Weird Al's like, let's chill. Yeah. I don't know. I think I really hope that it does develop a little bit of a following, develop a little bit of a
I feel like
fandom,
the people
because
who want
I
to
do
see
think it
this
is really
movie will
good.
see
Despite
it.
my criticisms, I think it's a very fun movie and I love Weird Al.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's, the other thing I wanted to ask was, what are some of our favorite Weird Al songs?
Perfect. I was going to ask the same question.
There you go. And we're in sync.
I was a late bloomer to Weird Al, so I didn't really get like super into his music until Running with, I don't know the name of it now, but his parody of I is the one that got me really interested in his music, and then I went backwards.
Yes, I believe that is the Star Wars one, right?
Right. The
Yes,
saga begins.
the saga begins. I can't ever remember the name of it.
I was just looking at
Right.
I was trying to see where I got into him, and it was around middle school for me. I remember, this is so funny thinking back on this. I remember downloading Weird Al songs on Napster.
Yeah,
100%.
date yourself, boy. We're at a time when we can date ourselves. guys.
Absolutely.
Very-
My apologies to the FBI. I don't know.
The very old thing.
But yeah, I remember being really into Amish Paradise and some of the polka medleys he would do. I always love his polka medleys. Those are fun.
Yeah,
So really at that point, I've been into him ever since. And then I got a nice little surge when his White and Nerdy album came out.
yeah. White and
Everybody
Nerdy
was
was a good
listening to
album.
that in school. I remember I had a burned Weird Al CD
Right.
in my Walkman on the school bus. To date myself a little more, I was the kid
These are
listening.
more incredibly old sentences.
I know.
Um,
That's how it is.
I would say that in terms of getting into it, I do remember. So I think my first real introduction was probably either Fat or Eat It, because I remember watching VHS and then them playing the videos on VHS and thinking they were funny, but thinking that guy not realizing that guy had other stuff and other things. And it was just like something that happened. But then, yeah, when I was probably 14 or 15, I discovered, I don't know how exactly, I just discovered the huge oeuvre of Weird Al. And I do remember, so I had a friend who had a CD. I don't remember what it was. Garrett, I do think it was Running with Scissors, because we would laugh at all the songs on there, but then we would play video game. What we do is we would try to finish a level of a game in the amount of time it took Weird Al to sing the song Albuquerque, which is an
Oh
11
yes,
11.5
Albuquerque was
song.
one of my favorite songs.
It was so funny. It's an 11.5 minute song. It's basically just a rant with a few choral bits.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's
I
ridiculous.
forget.
So we would try to beat the level, and we were like, okay, the goal is beat the level before Albuquerque ends, right? And that was one of the bits we would do. And so from then on, but I mean, so many. I love Smells Like Nirvana. I love Amish Paradise, obviously, like, those are the ones that everybody always comes to mind. Like you said, Josh, White Nerdy, which I think really, like, everybody was like, "Oh, yeah, Weird Al, yeah," and then
You
it was
still
just great.
got it.
Everybody loves that one. Less loved, but shortly after that was Canadian Idiot, which I really liked, and then, yeah, Saga Begins, but I do have to say that I think one of my favorite things on every Weird Al album is I don't know what exactly called the polka song, where he just does a bunch of top 40 hits, but in polka style. I could
Yes.
listen to those all day, and I do listen to them all day. I have it on a playlist where I just listen to those. It has ruined certain songs for me. I can't sing the Gorillaz without doing it like Weird Al. The song "Push" by Matchbox 20 increased in my popularity with me just because of Weird Al going, "I wanna push you around, well, I will." One of my favorite things. And in every polka song, in every Weird Al polka song, there's a bit where the beat changes and it like drops and he goes, and it's like a really goofy song. Those songs are always it's always my favorite part because usually it's the most aggressive or hardcore song and he just turns it into a complete goof. So yeah, whether it's, I don't know what they're all called, Polka Party or Polka Face, any of those. Yeah. There's one where I think it opens and closes with Gold Digger by Kanye. And that song helped me learn the lyrics to Gold Digger just because I could not tell what Jamie Foxx is saying in that song.
One
But
thing
yeah, they're all great.
one of the things I love about Weird Al is his live shows are very fun.
Oh, yeah.
But the one
Have
that
you
I
ever been to a live show?
yeah, I went to the live show the year that he came here in 2013.
Mhm.
He did a show that year at the Tulsa Theater. And he did one again recently, but I didn't get to go. But I regret it because I actually heard about this through a podcast. I didn't know about it when it actually happened, but his most recent tour was the ridiculously self-indulgent, ill-advised Vanity Tour. And the whole point of the tour was that he did not sing a single hit. He only sang his like album cuts for the whole show.
Uh,
And people didn't know that. And they were just,
Mm,
it's great.
so he's out there singing Gump and
Literally.
Achy
Yes.
Breaky Song.
love it.
There's the polka, Bohemian Rhapsody polka. I don't know if he did that one. It's the entire song of Bohemian Rhapsody, but it's polka version.
Now, I don't know what all he did, but once I heard the premise of the tour, I was like, yes, literally only Weird Al could get away with something like that and have fans not be angry.
Agreed. I've never seen him live. I would love to. It doesn't sound like we're gonna get any more Weird Al albums, at least not in the near future. He's kind of in interviews recently I saw he said that he's sort of putting that on hold unless a great idea comes to him. But he's probably more likely just gonna release individual singles if he releases songs at all.
Yeah, I remember hearing something similar from him and that, the music industry today isn't really an album industry for most artists. You have to be
Mhm.
really special to sell an album anymore. It's always streaming singles. So I could see that being a thing for him because it's exactly right. When it comes to a parody song, you have to strike when the moment's hot. And that's a lot different than it is. It's a lot different today than it was in the 80s.
Is it though? Because I guess the songs come and go in moments. So, I mean, if you can see that an old song is popular, then you can parody an old song at any point in time if you have
You
something.
can,
Because it goes through a circle at this point.
but it may not be relevant anymore, I think is his
True.
fear. Is that,
That's true.
back then, if a song came out and you loved it, too bad until the album came out. It was like listening to the
Right.
radio. But now
Well,
you can get
yeah.
access to that song immediately. And so there's no
Right.
time. Songs can come and go in a flash now.
Right. And, because the music industry used to have such a reliance on radio as one of its main ways of delivering music to people, a song like My Sharona could be on radio for 10 years after it came out, So like a song's relevancy period could be a way longer. Whereas I do feel like today, if a song really like hits on the cutting edge, then usually, yeah, it'll stick around. But there are tons of songs just from the last year alone that have already oh yeah, I forgot that even, it's harder to you have to wait and see what the staying power of a certain song is these days.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to write a parody of couldn't even think of an obscure song. That's how hard that was. Anyway, you don't want to write a parody that, although as the movie implies, some of these songs got big bumps just from Weird Al recording parodies
Yes,
of
the
them.
Yankovic bump. That was the whole reason why Madonna in the movie wanted to get close to Al was that she wanted him to give like a virgin the Yankovic bump. Real, I might add.
Colbert bump, though, is real.
The Colbert bump is real, but the Yankovic bump is not yet proven.
Well, do we have anything else? Boys, I've seen the review, so I've got some stuff ready. Unfortunately, I saw what it was.
Okay.
But you already saw the.
Yeah, I made an oopsie.
I don't have box office numbers because the movie wasn't released in box office. I do want to say that Weird Al's highest actual charting single is White and Nerdy. That came out at that went all the way up to number 9. His highest charting, in contrast to the film, his only album to chart number 1 on the U.S. Billboard charts is Mandatory Fun, his last album in 2014.
And you're welcome
did
for
have a
that,
huge-
Al. Right after his appearance on RSU Radio.
He did have others that were made the top 10. Alpocalypse, Straight Out of Linwood, made the top 10. But unlike in the film, it was kind of a slow for a while. He was very popular at the time, and he dipped, and then get back in there and he dipped. I'll give you one box office stat that I bothered to look up, which is I wondered what was the most successful parody movie. And
Walk the Line.
the
right?
list is pretty good. Huh?
Walk the Line?
No, it's not. Walk Hard, I think you're thinking of.
Oh, that's what I meant. You got it.
Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, which Josh, you said it a week ago or so. You're right. I think if you put this, Walk Hard, and Never Stop Stopping grouped together, it's like an unofficial music
trilogy.
biopic trilogy.
Mhm.
So the number 1 parody / spoof movie in terms of box office draw is Austin
Oh.
Powers in Goldmember. Austin Powers by Shag Me is number 2. So Austin Powers Goldmember made $213 million. Scary Movie's also on the list. Borat, The Naked Guns. Airplane is still the number 9 highest grossing parody film. And I kind of think this movie has more in common with Airplane than it does some other parody films. I'm going to put that out there.
I can see that.
Anyway, that's all I've got this week. Josh, do you want to run the letterbox game?
Well, no, because
Yeah, good.
Garrett said he already saw it.
All right.
Done ruined. I got some good reviews
But
for
he
you.
can run it.
Wide range.
That's sorry.
Yeah,
I
wide
blanked
range.
on exactly what happened.
Listen,
That's okay. 3.5 stars. This is what Bohemian Rhapsody wishes it was. 4.5 stars. Lin-Manuel Miranda jump scare. 3.5 stars. A step forward for movies and music at the same time.
Yep.
2.5 stars. Weirdly anti-Madonna.
It's true.
And
True.
then my favorite 4-star review. One of the dumbest movies I've seen in a long time. And I mean that as the highest.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
this
it's
is what
definitely
Trick or Treat
dumb
wished it
in
was.
all of the best ways. You know, there are 2 types of people in the world. There are people who get jump scared when Lin-Manuel Miranda shows up, and there are people who still get excited when he does, and I still like it.
Yeah.
I still get
Yeah,
excited.
I'm, as someone who didn't dive headfirst into the Hamilton craze, I'm at a point now where I am listening to it and going, oh, yeah, this is all right. And Lin-Manuel Miranda is still a pleasant surprise for me. There's some people who have been oversaturated.
Some people are really
But-
tired. But not me.
But I don't mind. Yeah, this is the movie that Trick or Treat wishes it was, which is a fun, dumb parody. I'm going to guess that Weird, the Al Yankovic story, is sitting at a 3.9.
Oh!
Ooh, high number.
That even took me
3.9.
by surprise.
I feel like
That's
the
a
target
Grammy
for this
Award
Weird Al
winning
fans,
movie
the Weird Al
almost.
fans are going to say it's bad.
No, they're not. That's true.
You're
You
right.
got to think that there's some there might be some crossover from Weird Al and Letterboxd community. I mean, we 3 are.
Yeah, the Letterboxd community definitely seems like the Weird Al community.
They do.
If there was a Alboxed, it would be a lot of crossover.
I'm going to go lower, though, because you've really put me in a position where I'd have to go 4 to go higher.
Mm.
There's just no way I can get
Mm.
myself there.
And establish the
Um,
ceiling.
So I'm going to go 3.3.
3.3. Well, we've got a winner in the Weird Al fan, David. At the Weird Al Yankovic story is coming in at a 3.7.
Oh, all right.
Mm.
All right. All right. On the
for
higher
good
end,
That is very high. I was honestly surprised when I saw it.
what would you have guessed if you had even thought about it, Garrett?
I probably would have gone with a 3.5, honestly.
I thought about that as a safe bet, but then I just kind of thought to myself, it's not bad. So the thing
No.
is, anybody who would come in to rate it poorly, I just don't feel like they would take the time, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. That makes no sense. But I really thought, okay, Weird Al fans are going to love this. Let's go high. 3.7. I think that's fair.
I agree. All right,
What do
personal
we think?
rankings.
We have it as, what do we got it? Very intrigued.
It's a 4.5 for me.
Whoa!
Nearly
Look,
perfect.
I have very little bad to say about it. It hits a lot of niches for me so obviously I give it a little credit for that. But I would watch it again easily.
So I am going to go lower than that, and I'm gonna say Garrett, you go.
Oh man. Well, dang, I was gonna do some averages because I think this will be fun because I also really like this movie. However, I think that it lost me in the second half. I will say what I didn't say earlier is that I watched this movie again today also. And it's still very funny, very solid. I would easily watch it again, but I still had the same problems with it this time that I had the first time. So it's consistent, which isn't a bad thing. But for me, because I couldn't overcome it the second time, 3 stars.
I'll tell you right now, the Pablo Escobar thing is what's keeping it from a 5 for me.
Yes,
Mm.
and you know
That's
what?
where my
Yeah,
half comes in.
Garrett, you really established, I think, what is for me the difference between a 4-star movie and a 3.5-star movie, or higher, 4.5, is the rewatchability. And I don't know if I sat down and watched this again that I would get the same enjoyment out of it. So I'm going to go with 3.5. But I did really enjoy it, but I'm not sure I will be popping it in to rewatch it anytime soon. Well, we'll be
We
popping it
come
anywhere. It's on
in.
Roku.
Oh, I'm sorry, David. I got very excited. Yeah, and it's hard to find if you don't want to seek it out. We come in right with the letterbox community at a 3.666667. 3.7 would round up. Right
Round
there,
it up.
boys.
We're back.
I love it when a plan comes together.
We're back. We've been off lately, but the algorithm comes together.
Yes. Okay, well, that is our episode. Happy Thanksgiving. First of all, we've got some fun stuff coming up. You can keep an eye on your feed for a encore of our Knives Out review because that is a Thanksgiving movie. It was declared last year. So we will be re-releasing that episode for you to listen to in anticipation of the sequel, Glass Onion, coming out very soon in theaters and on Netflix. So we will be covering both of those. But you'll get 2 episodes this week, basically. This one and a nice, fun little Knives Out rerun. Everybody loves that, right? It's not
Heck yeah.
Thanksgiving. It's not Thanksgiving if you don't watch reruns.
Yes, and it's a Thanksgiving movie almost entirely just because of the sweaters and the like the cardigans and stuff. Like so cozy,
Yeah,
the
look,
clothing in that movie is so cozy.
we could relitigate it all day, but it does come down to the fact that the clothes are perfect, the family yelling at each other is perfect, the big house, all that. It's Thanksgiving to a T.
Exactly.
So we'll have more of that for you down the road, and then we will wrap out our year as usual with some Christmas fun and some year-end wrap-ups, and you know the drill. It'll be a good time.
Oh yeah.
So check us out online, all your favorite social media platforms. We're on So Many Sequels or So Many Sequels Pod on most of those. And of course, you can find links at somanysequels.com. I also want to shout out again our Patreon real quick. I always mean to do it at the beginning of the show and never do. But you should check out our Patreon where you can join for $1 and get into our Discord and come chat with us there. We have fun too. So go do that at patreon.com/so many sequels.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you next time.